Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, we are doing things a little more differently, and I'm going to show you how to make an air fried version of Puerto Rican canoas. So let's get into it. All right, so to start making the canoas, I'm going to make a quick picadillo. Now, you can go ahead and watch if you want, or if you want to skip and fast forward to how I assemble the canoas, then you can go ahead and do that. But I'm just going to start by adding a little bit of extra virgin olive oil to my pan, and my pan is set over medium heat. I am then going to chop one small white onion, and I'm just going to saute it until it is nice and fragrant. All right, so once my onions are nice and soft, I'm going to go ahead and add some sofrito. This is about 1.5 tablespoons. By the way, I do have 2 videos on my channel on how I make sofrito. I have an authentic traditional version, and I also have a simple, more practical version of sofrito. And then I'm going to go ahead and add about 2 tablespoons of tomato sauce. I get a lot of questions on what kind of tomato sauce I use or what brand. I just use whatever brand, whether it's Goya or Hunt's or a generic version. I just use whatever tomato sauce. But my favorite one is the Goya tomato sauce, specifically the one that has like added spices like oregano, onion. Like I like that one. And then I'm going to add 1 packet of chicken bouillon. You know, I've been using this for a lot of my videos, and I'm still not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Chicken flavoring, that's what you're going to use, chicken flavoring. And then I'm going to add 1 packet of some Goya Sazón. You don't have to use Sazón if you don't want to. Feel free to use annatto powder or another brand of Sazón if you prefer. And then I'm going to add like a heaping tablespoon of some alcaparado, which is stuffed Spanish olives and capers. If you don't have this, it's okay. It's not going to make or break the picadillo. And then I'm just going to stir it up really good until it's nice and combined. And then I'm going to go ahead and add my ground meat of choice for today. So I am using like a very lean ground turkey, honestly, because when I went to the grocery store, they didn't have the regular ground turkey that I like. So I just picked up this one instead. Now, I sometimes get comments that say, why are you using ground turkey? You're supposed to use beef. Listen, I always say, follow my recipe and then do whatever you want. It's okay. It's not a big deal. You can use any kind of ground meat that you prefer. I'm using ground turkey, but feel free to use ground chicken, ground beef, ground pork. However, if you are using ground beef, then you're not going to use chicken bouillon. You're going to use beef bouillon. Again, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that word right, but you know what I mean. And if you're using ground pork, then you're not going to add any extra flavoring. All right, so I'm just going to combine this all up. I'm going to mash it up really good. If you are wondering why I do not brown my ground meat, it's because when you are making picadillo, it is basically stewed ground meat. So the flavor is in all of those added ingredients, not in the browning process. However, as always, if you want to brown your meat, feel free to do so. All you're going to do is just brown it up, and then you're going to add the rest of your ingredients. All right, so now that my ground meat is nice and combined, I'm going to go ahead and add some extra spices. I'm going to add a little bit of all-purpose seasoning. I'm using adobo. Feel free to use any garlic-based all-purpose seasoning of your choice. I added about half a teaspoon or so. Just add it to taste. I'm going to stir that up really well to combine. Still chopping it up because I like my ground meat to be nice and minced. And after just a couple of minutes, my picadillo is pretty much done. And considering that this was a very lean ground turkey, It's still pretty juicy, probably because I added that extra virgin olive oil. Of course, it's going to be more juicy for you if you are using a not so lean ground meat. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my heat and set it to the side. All right, so now that my picadillo is set to the side, these are the plantains that I'll be using. Now I'm using 3 medium ripe plantains. You'll know that they're ripe if you press on them and they are nice and soft and the outside is nice and dark. So to start shaping the canoas, I'm gonna first peel them. So I chop up the ends and then I make like a very shallow slit along the backside of the plátano and I peel it, and it's very easy to peel because the skin is so ripe. So now that the peel is removed, it is time to prepare our canoas. The word canoa is Spanish for canoe because essentially what we're doing is making a sweet plantain canoe that's going to be stuffed with meat. So I'm going to go ahead and very carefully, about a little more than halfway, I'm going to make an incision along the inside of the plantain. You want to be careful that you don't go too deep with your knife, because if you do, then you're going to risk cutting the plantain in half. It has happened to me many times. So if this is your first time making it and it happens to you, that's okay. Don't be discouraged. Just keep practicing. I say your safest bet is just to go like halfway and then with your finger kind of open it up. And since the plantain is so ripe, it'll be very easy to just pry it open. Just be careful to not play with it too much because again, it will break in half because they're so soft. All right, so now that my canoas are nice and shaped, I'm gonna go ahead and drizzle a generous amount of extra virgin olive oil. Like I mentioned in the introduction, I'm gonna air fry these canoas. I'm trying something different today. However, if you are going to bake the plantains, you still need to drizzle extra virgin olive oil because then you're gonna cover them in foil and bake them at 350 degrees for about 20 minutes or so. But yeah, so again, we are air frying these. I'm going to drizzle a good amount of olive oil and then I'm going to make sure that I coat the plantains really, really well. Now, this is also key because since I am air frying it and it's a healthier version, I still want to make sure that my plantains are not dry. So the extra virgin olive oil is going to ensure that the plantains are nice and moist. All right, so I went ahead and air fried my plantains at 400 degrees for about 12 to 15 minutes. So everyone's air fryer cooks differently. Again, I air fried mine at 400 degrees for about 12 to 15 minutes. You want to check on your plantains every 5 minutes just to make sure that they are cooking well. You want to make sure that they're not browning too quickly. But they should look like something like this after a little while. And the good thing is that once they cook, they open up and I use the back of the spoon to kind of flatten the bottom just to give it a little more structure. As I mentioned earlier, you can also bake these. You got to wrap them in foil. You're going to bake them at like 350 degrees for about 20 minutes. Make sure you spray them with cooking spray so that they do not stick to the foil. And you can also do the old school way, which is deep frying them. You're still going to need to make an incision along the inside of the plantain for whatever method of cooking you're gonna use to cook the plantains. But yeah, deep frying is definitely the old school way. And I'm not gonna lie, it's very delicious, but you know, thankfully we can make our loved foods in a healthier way, because this is pretty healthy. Like plantains are very, very nutritious. They're very high in potassium and fiber. And, if you are using a lean meat like this, then, you're good. So I'm going to go ahead and stuff them very generously with my picadillo. I did have some picadillo left over and I just went ahead and freezed it. So if you're making a 1 pound of ground meat, you can make up to 6 canoas. So after I stuffed my plantains, I'm going to go ahead and brush them with an egg wash. This is just 1 egg that I scrambled up, and I'm going to use like a basting brush and just generously brush that over the ground meat. This is going to help give the ground meat structure. You don't have to do this, but if you want your canoas to look nice and put together, then I do recommend doing this. Okay, so now I'm going to sprinkle my canoas with shredded cheese. You can use any cheese you prefer. So I used a cheese blend that was a combination of mozzarella and Parmesan. While it tasted really good, it's not super gooey because Parmesan cheese in particular is very dry. So feel free to use any kind of cheese you like. If you want it to be like super gooey and melty, I recommend using mozzarella, provolone, Gruyere. Oh, I did not pronounce that right. You know what I mean? The cheese with that starts with a G and R. Gouda, stuff like that. Like really nice melty cheese. And then I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit of dried oregano. And I found this dried cilantro at Target, so I'm gonna sprinkle that too, just to give it some color and make it look pretty. And after that, I air fried them for about 3 more minutes at the same temperature of 400 degrees, just so that the cheese can be nice and melted. And my canoas came out incredible. I wasn't sure what to expect. This is the very first time I've ever air fried canoas, and I'm so glad that they came out so good. So feel free to try this recipe. Of course, you can customize it however you prefer, and let me know in the comment section down below how they turned out. And that is all for today's video. If you've enjoyed today's recipe, please let me know in the comment section down below. Do not forget to give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you have not already. And be sure to hit the notification bell. And I'll see you guys next time.